As I've established in posts this week, anarchy, like all movements, comes in waves, and those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. The excuses those who promote revolution over evolution can seem noble to those who believe the arguments need immediate fixes. Ending racism, stopping the steal, liberty, safety. But as I've demonstrated this week, if the changes happen too quickly, then a societal shock sets in, resulting in either decades or centuries of instability and suffering, or a regressive pushback so extreme that words like genocide and Holocaust enter your nation's history. Another thing history has proven time and time again is if the action isn't happening in the legislature, then progress won't stick. Much as Tucker and Elon want you to trust they know best, history has proven time and again that only the state, held in check by an active, fair, and effective court, and responsive to the needs of the middle class, can bring about lasting progress. But that's a two-way street, and as often as progress comes too quickly for many, it can also mean progress isn't fast enough for others. That tension is the sign of societal shock, and whether there's progress or regression is how you measure the level of shock. Again, for those whose cultural house is on fire, change can never be fast enough, and I'm absolutely not suggesting they and their allies shouldn't continue to push for long overdue changes and redressing of injustice. But when you look at how societies have reacted to massive change, the ones where reforms have worked, with the fewest deaths and sacrifices, with the least backlashes and regressions, with the most lasting progressive changes, are those that embrace a measured process of evolution, nudging the middle in the desired direction, and then pausing to ensure it settles and acclimates to that new place before further action happens. And that has repeatedly been the only way for lasting change. Evolution has taken a nation from refugees of a revolution to defenders against invaders, to expanding rights to its citizens, to stepping out from its colonial shadows, establishing its own identity, charting its own course, and championing new causes to the forefront of progressive leadership. But the risk at each step, each nudge, each push, is that a backlash will tip the balance the wrong way. Something that'll put the regressives back in charge, taking Canada back, and in doing so, yanking the rug of hope and progress out from under yet another generation struggling to find their place within that evolving sphere. The damage done to those that pre-existed, those people, is long overdue being repaired, but even that will only stick if done in a measured way, pushing, then pausing to ensure the masses are still behind the movement, because the alternative is a backlash that will only further delay progress while hurting both sides. Canada has been a nation of baby steps, but those steps accumulate. So far, Canada has avoided serious regression on any social issue, and if that's to continue to be the case, then the champions of each cause have to remember, a bit of breathing room may seem inconvenient, but it's also why the progress lasts. And it doesn't hurt for progressives to stick together even when the sausage making gets messy, because the opponents of change never tire in their outrage. The populists are always in the shadows waiting to pounce and take over. One often overused tool of the far right are false equivalencies, but progressives need to be ready to counter those too, because saying we shouldn't help refugees, for example, when there are homeless in this country, is very nearly exactly like saying we shouldn't put out homes that are on fire because there are people who don't have heat in their houses. Our failure to solve the latter is not an excuse to delay immediate work on the former, and any step forward, even if it's a compromise, doesn't preclude a progressive's ability to push for the rest later, whereas giving up on those leading the charge because the extremes of right and left argue that they're not perfect, letting our guard down because the fight is tiring, giving into populist arguments without challenging them. It's how those who shouldn't get power take it, and how those who want progress lose it. On this day in 1863, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address at the dedication ceremony for the military cemetery at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
87 years ago.
Why doesn't he just say 87 years? Who wants to do math for this?
It's also International Men's Day, World Toilet Day, Have a Bad Day Day, Play Monopoly Day, and Carbonated Beverage with Caffeine Day. Yeah, I like that one. And that's today's Duza Bear Digest. See you tomorrow.